Big news for immigrants. Immigration courts are fighting back and winning against the USCIS crackdown, and the changes happening right now in August 2025 could directly affect you. If you've been stressed about stricter rules, delays, or denials, this update might give you a little hope. So stick with me, because what I'm about to share could be the difference between keeping your case alive or losing it completely. For the last few months, we've seen USCIS tightening the screws, more denials, tougher interviews, and even policy changes aimed at making applications harder. But here's the twist. Immigration courts are stepping in, and some major wins have been announced in favor of immigrants. These victories are setting a strong precedent that could protect thousands of families and individuals just like you. Now, you're probably wondering, what exactly happened? Which cases are winning? And most importantly, does this apply to your situation? Don't worry, we're breaking it all down in plain language so you can understand what it means for you and your loved ones. Whether you're waiting for your green card, fighting deportation, or planning to apply soon, this update is something you can't afford to miss. And let me just say this, I know how stressful this process can be. I talk to people every day who feel like they're in limbo, and I get it. That's why my goal here is to keep you informed, empowered, and prepared with real facts, not rumors. So grab a coffee, stay with me for the next few minutes, and let's dive into these huge immigration court wins and what they mean for you in August 2025. Before we get started, do me a quick favor. If you find this helpful, hit that like button. It lets me know you want more updates like this, and it helps this information reach more immigrants who really need it. All right, let's jump in. All right, now that we've set the stage, let's talk real talk. What's actually been happening in August 2025 that makes this immigration court pushback so meaningful for you, your family, and communities across the U.S.? Let's start with a case that's been making waves. A federal judge has dismissed what many describe as an audacious lawsuit filed by the Justice Department. The Trump administration had tried to sue not just one judge, but 15 federal judges in Maryland over court orders that temporarily paused deportations when habeas corpus petitions were filed. That's right, 13 or 15 judges got named in one lawsuit. Judge Thomas Cullen, himself a Trump appointee, called it potentially calamitous and outside the bounds of how our system is supposed to work. He said the right move would have been an appeal, not suing judges, and that attacking the judiciary undermines our entire system of checks and balances. That's a big deal. Courts are pushing back, and they're standing firm to protect people like YOU.AP News Politicoth Washington Post. But that's just one strand of hope. Another courtroom victory came from a judge, Cobb, who blocked the administration's new aggressive policy for parolees. DHS had pushed a rule that would let them rapidly deport people who entered with parole, without even allowing court hearings or the chance to defend their case. Judge Cobb said that went too far, violated due process, and targeted vulnerable people unfairly. Her ruling stopped that movement in its tracks, for now, pausing 3 Trump-era directives expanding expedited removal and canceling parole for groups like Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. That's huge. Hundreds of thousands of lives could be impacted if that policy had rolled out. Washington Post. Now, there's another person whose story feels emblematic of how crazy this has all become. Kilmar Ábrego García. You may have heard of him. He's a Salvadoran immigrant, wrongly deported to El Salvador earlier this year. No criminal record, nothing. He was eventually sent back to the U.S., and then ICE tried to detain him again, this time with deportation plans to Uganda, a country he doesn't even know. Sounds absurd? It is. But a federal judge has now halted that deportation, ensuring he gets his day in court and a fair process. It's a small step, but an important one, and it speaks volumes about how the courts are sometimes the only line of protection against administrative overreach. Reuters, The Wall Street Journal, New York Post. Taken together, these are all legal wins. They don't fix everything, but they're real signs that courts are checking enforcement when things go too far. Now, I want to pause and make this a little more personal. Imagine you're sitting in that courtroom, your heart pounding, worried, desperate to tell your story. Then you hear the judge say, "We're pausing. You'll get your fair day. You have your rights." That matters, not just symbolically, but for real outcomes in people's lives. People are being kept alive, families kept intact, deportations delayed or canceled, because the court said, "Enough. We need fairness and due process." This isn't about headlines, it's about you. Maybe you're navigating a green card through marriage or an asylum case, or maybe you watched your temporary protected status tear away. Maybe you feel like the system is against you, but stories like these show things are not yet over. You still have recourse. You still have rights. It's equally important to know what's not winning. For instance, the Ninth Circuit Court recently cleared the way for the administration to end temporary protected status for over 60,000 migrants from Honduras, Nicaragua, and Nepal. That means many may lose their work permits and safety. The tide isn't always turning in favor of immigrants in EW York Post-App News. So yes, it's a mixed picture. Courts are stepping in and halting some aggressive enforcement tactics, but other policies still threaten people's safety and stability. That's why awareness matters. That's why you, and everyone in our community, needs to stay informed. Let's talk practical next steps. If you're watching this and your case is in court, don't go it alone. Reach out to trusted legal aid, nonprofits, or attorneys who understand the latest rulings. Stay up to date. These decisions are evolving, and appeals could reverse them. Know what applies to your situation. Is your case eligible for protections? Are expedited removal procedures threatening you? Has someone filed habeas paperwork on your behalf? These decisions could be your lifeline, like Judge Cobb's ruling or Judge Cullen's dismissal of the DOJ's lawsuit. I also encourage you to tell your story if it's safe, share how it feels, share the impact of delays, deportation fears, family separation. It's stories that sway public opinion and push for policy changes, not just legal rulings. Now, before we move on to more details, I'd love for you to hit that like button if this video is helping you feel more grounded or hopeful. If you're feeling the weight of this and this information gave you even a moment of relief, that like button says, "Yes, keep breaking this down." You're not just supporting me, you're helping others in your community find this critical news. We're about halfway through, but stay with me, because I'm going to unpack how these rulings might ripple into applications, hearings, and long-term cases. And I'll share simple ways to track your case and talk to legal help without feeling lost in complicated immigration bureaucracy. Now, let's talk about what this really means if you have a pending case. If you're in removal proceedings, these recent wins in court could give you more breathing room. Why? Because judges are signaling that the system cannot just bulldoze through cases without proper due process. That means if you've been worried about expedited removal or sudden deportation without a hearing, these rulings show there's still a chance to fight and push back. It's not a guarantee, but it's hope, and in immigration, hope is everything. For those waiting on green cards, work permits, or humanitarian relief, the message is clear. Don't lose faith. Even in a tough environment, the law is still working for people who stand up for their rights. Immigration courts can and do challenge policies that go too far. And you don't have to do this alone. Community organizations, immigration advocates, and lawyers are out there fighting these battles every single day. If you feel overwhelmed, that's normal, but don't give up. The people winning these cases? They're just like you, families, workers, students, who kept pushing even when the odds felt impossible. Before we wrap this section up, I want you to think about something. Every single one of these victories happened because someone fought back. A lawyer filed a motion. An immigrant stood strong. A judge said, "This isn't right." And now those rulings are helping thousands of others. That's why staying informed, connected, and engaged matters. If you haven't yet, please tap that like button, not just because it helps the channel, but because it helps more immigrants see this critical information when they need it most. Now, let's dive into what you should be doing next to protect yourself and your family. So let's keep going, because knowledge is power, and this journey is much easier when you don't have to go it alone.